your attendance. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, all of you will better understand our approach here at GoEngineer to helping our customers solve real solutions with the tools that we provide for the community of product development that we service. So let's just jump right into the webinar here. So today is an industry review of the Affordable Care Act and how that the downstream effect of what's going on concerning that bill affects product development companies in the medical device industry. I spent a lot of time thinking about that as a simulation product manager, how industry topics affect our customer base and how we're able to help share and provide the solutions that we at GoEngineer Career Service and provide for our customers, and give you guys a better overview of how those industry concerns affect you and how they directly relate back to what we provide in terms of solutions. So today, we're going to talk about the industry, the medical device industry as it stands today in relationship to the Affordable Care Act, the key factors of the bill that affect the industry, the potential areas that we at GoEngineer are able to help our customers mitigate those potential effects, those downstream effects of sometimes the things we can't control, and the solutions that we provide, and the next stages of discovery. At the end of this webinar, if you're interested in learning more about the solutions that we provide, I'll give you information and details about how to contact us and more details about maybe some specific folks in your area. So let's really dive into the medical device, the drivers that are behind the industry today. You all know on the line here that demand is really driven by advancement in technology and human demographics, right? There are different problems to solve in the human body every day, and medical device companies are really pouring money into their R&D budgets to solve different patient concerns, right? So those patients can drive the industry up or down depending on their economic infrastructure, the concerns they have going on in their life. Other drivers might be, the FDA or insurers can run out of innovation at risk. So a lot of drivers in the industry that, can swing the pendulum back and forth to, where we're placing our money, how much market share is being gained or lost in a given year. Economic strength can be the drivers of the industry, growth or shrinkage depending on what's going on. So the 2014 landscape, where are we at today in the medical device industry as it stands today? Now, and those folks involved in the medical device industry on the line, I'm sure you're well aware that the Affordable Care Act has increased the taxation on the industry about 2.3%. So what does that mean? I mean, you can search the internet and different consulting firms are saying, you can find folks that are for and or against it. But at the end of the day, about $20 billion has been poured into this new sort of taxation budget based on the tax hike. Now, there are people out there saying that can have adverse effects on the medical device industry, really siphoning money out of discovery or innovation as it relates to, our R&D budget. Well, what does it all mean, right? If you don't have an R&D budget as a medical device company, you may not be able to keep up with the drivers that we talked about on the first page, the patient demand, the new problems that you have to solve in the human body or as it relates to human demographics. And if that is where you are in terms of spending your dollars as it relates to product innovation or new product development, well, this tax can be a real concern. I mean, if you're forced to put more money into taxation versus taking that money out of the R&D dollars for new product development or innovation, that can be a real crunch on the way you do business moving forward. And there are lobbyists that are reporting that, you know, billions of dollars on an annual basis are being poured into the IRS, which are being siphoned from the R&D budgets of medical device industry. The international med device landscape is set to grow to a huge order of magnitude by 2020, which is actually taking away from the domestic med device growth. So all this is playing into how companies are doing business today, and the industry is forced to find new problems to solve, right? If you're going to grow as a med device industry, you've got to be coming out with new products every year. You've got to be pushing the envelope, reinventing your existing product line, refining it, you know, coming out with new projections for market share is really directly related on how do I balance the supply and demand, you know, on my existing product line, on the number of new products I'm coming out. Pricing is being forced down as a result of the Affordable Care Act. So if I can't charge more for my products, I'm really being put under pressure. Okay, if I need to show double-digit growth, where is that going to go? And if domestic demand becomes low and international demand becomes high, how do I mitigate those risks and concerns if I'm a medical device company? So the projections for 2014 for domestic growth in the med device industry is really by all the analysts and consultants, Ernst & Young, the NASDAQ's forward prediction is really to be flat in 2014. And they're actually predicting it to be flat till all the way to about 2020. So, you know, where does that leave the medical device industry as it stands today? If single-digit projections are really where the emerging sector is, how do I mitigate those risks in terms of dialing it back to the nucleus of my organization, which is R&D, which is engineering? Other factors play in growth in the medical device industry. As a result of the Affordable Care Act, the FDA regulations are getting stricter. What I have on the screen here is the 5 realms in which FDA requires documentation as it relates to redesigning a product, refining a product, proving that a product is safe, that it's durable, that it can be used in the human body, that it won't cause any, you know, adverse effects. So these 5 realms in terms of the R&D FDA regulations getting stricter is demanding medical device companies to come up with more documentation that supports proof of concept, because to come up with more documentation for validating that a product or a device will work as it says it will, the company says it will work. There are a lot of companies going through audits right now. I'm actually working with a ton of companies going through audits as it relates to these 5 sort of stages in getting their devices approved, or, you know, getting that tried and true stamp of approval on from the FDA, and refining their documentation, providing, you know, more succinct documentation all the way back from concept to manufacturing is really proven to be a surge in the industry today. So you might be asking yourself, okay, well, Danae, all this is good information, and how do I use this to dial back to what I do every day? You know, there are engineers on the line who every day you come to work to solve a new problem. You come to work to create a new concept, right? So reviewing everything that, you know, may be potential adverse effects from the Affordable Care Act, taxation, siphoning R&D dollars, FDA regulations getting stricter, market share growth projections, you know, really proving to be flat, international development of med devices becoming much more of a concern. Where do you look back to solve potential solutions to how you grow from here? What you do as a med device company or an engineering-centered nucleus company to create new products, re-examining existing product lines. Well, this term lean design engineering has become a real buzzword in the product development community in recent years. And you may be asking yourself, okay, what is lean design engineering? Lean design engineering is really examining your design process from concept to manufacturing and examining it at every stage to consider, how do I cut the fat, right? How do I cut the manufacturing costs? How do I reduce the time to market? How do I redefine existing products to improve the quality so my quality control group isn't putting pressure on my engineering department or my R&D department where, hey, I don't have as much dollars and cents to spend there anymore, so I can't, I can no longer, be driven by quality assurance departments. You can't drive our engineering department because we just don't have the money to come up with as many new products as we did, in years past. Well, lean design engineering can really get you to get more refinement to the FDA, and so that if they're requiring more documentation, well, lean design engineering tools help you do more with less. So let's talk about what the typical design process looks like today, right? These are a simplified version of what a typical design engineering process might look like. Concept design, prototype testing, then you get it out the door with manufacturing. Well, typically where the most money is spent is that prototype and test phase that is really what we call refining or redesigning the product to really come up with a succinct model that can solve the problem, get that tried and true stamp of approval from the FDA, and get us out the door with manufacturing, but not causing all these headaches of audits, and not to mention if we want to go down the road of ISO compliance and more regulatory concerns. So when we talk about the dollars being spent down the drain, we're really, I want to focus on that refining, redesigning, prototyping, test phase, and in terms of the solutions that we provide here at GoEngineer. Now, what does a lean design engineering process look like? Well, we try to converge the prototyping test phase in what I like to call a validation stage. Now, you may be asking, okay, well, what does that mean? What does validate mean? Validation can mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but it's really qualifying the designs early on, really bumping that proof of concept up into the design phase so we create a conceptual model and really integrating design and validation at the stage after concept so that we can refine from the beginning. We're not waiting till we prototype or making sending it out to be prototyped to some costly CNC folks or plastic mold injection folks or however we're designing a product and waiting for it to come back, then test it, seeing that it doesn't work, and then going back to the redesign stage and telling engineers, okay, here's where the problems were, and we need refinement in this area. Well, validation or verification and merging those prototyping and test phase is really qualifying the design by using virtual components, right? We're doing our product verification and our environmental testing while we're refining the product, while we're sending it down that sort of trending stage where we're, creating what-if scenarios, and we're using tools that will help us evaluate structural integrity. We're using tools that will help us evaluate, fluid flow delivery from a a needle or syringe into the human body, how much fluid or liquid can we deliver, the volume of what we're doing, what's the adverse effects of the, continual loading on a product. Really using those thoughts to refine the design before we prototype. That's really what lean design engineering is all about. And that's why that sort of buzzword is really becoming a real way best-in-class organizations really approach design engineering from a whole, right? Because if you have these regulations like the FDA, or we have things that we can't control like the Affordable Care Act, and it doesn't look like it's going away right now. Yeah, sure, there's lobbyists swinging the pendulum one way or another, but we as product developers, we've got to work with what we've got. Every day we come to work and we can't control the administration and what they're doing on a daily basis. So when we've got these tax hikes and these siphoning from R&D dollars, we've got to spend our time thinking about, okay, how do we use what we've got, or how do we acquire tools that can help us maximize the potential of our personnel, maximize the potential of what our R&D is doing today, so that we can really start to see, a market share growth or survival, if you will, in this industry as the landscape is today. So, again, why would we use validation or verification tool? Is because that refinement stage really proves to be one of the most costly stages in product development. That's where the most time can be spent. It's where and time is money, right? So even if it's not direct dollars and cents, it's man hours, it's having to no control of our production schedule, the lead time between, even if you're farming it out, outsourcing it to companies to do this refinement or testing for you or provide this documentation, that can be a long time in between you tossing it over the fence and getting it back to redesign or refine it. So these are some of the challenges that you as a medical device company on the line, these are some of the areas that we at GoEngineer have able to define and sort of hone our skill set in helping our customers, right? So if you're a surgical device or drug delivery system, aesthetics and ergonomics are really directly related to some of the concerns in the way you design or the way you refine your products, right? Patient trauma can really be related to aesthetics. And functional requirements are the way, pressures that control the way you design your products. Range of motion or the strength or integrity of the product. Choice of material is a huge component of the way you approach concepts, right? Whether I use a composite material or a plastic material, or am I going to go out and use carbon fibers or steel to design my product, that can directly relate to not only cost, but strength of integrity of the product, structural integrity. That can relate to patient usage. That can relate to really how much I'm taxed from the Affordable Care Act, if you believe it or not. I mean, all of that plays into the effect of how I'm designing my product, what choices I make up front, and then relating it back to those lean design engineering aspects we were talking about, material choices and functionality requirements, how I'm approaching the concept, really should play an effect in how I'm approaching it from day one, not at the prototyping stage, right? Because all of these effects really, if we start to think about them post-prototyping, we're really behind the 8 ball now, because now we're relying on, we've done all of this, we put all this manpower and this work into designing this tool a certain way, and when we consider these challenges post-prototyping, now we're at the phase where we're playing catch-up. Some other typical design challenges that we see in, if you're designing equipment or packaging, is the size of the equipment. Engineers have to design for the type of industry. If you're designing a wheelchair, you have to consider, the size of the person using the equipment, what they're going to do with it after it gets off the shop floor. Is it easy to operate and maneuver? That directly plays into, market share growth. The configurability or the functionality, is it going to work for not just one scenario? Is it going to work for multiple scenarios? That all plays into how we as design engineers approach the design. Now, if we talk about the scope of how validation or verification can affect how we design engineers approach our job, if we have tools for lean design engineering, we can really conduct those what-if scenarios prior to getting to the prototyping stage. We can really develop a succinct way we validate proof of concept if we're able to do a drop test for impact loading, if we're able to do, if we have an electronic enclosure and we're creating a control box, that's used in surgery, how are we able to mitigate those thermal effects, heating and cooling? How is that going to adversely or conversely affect our design and the way we approach design, right? If we're really going to talk about lean design engineering and using less dollars in the system because of a component that we can't control from the Affordable Care Act or FDA stricter regulations, we've really got to hone in our product reliability. And using those lean design engineering tools is really going to get us there. So this is an example of how the solutions I've been really talking about, that lean design engineering approach, is used with different industries in medical device. We work with jaws implants, we work with heart valves, pumps, pressure and monitors. We work with needles and syringes, drug delivery systems. Anything you can name in the medical device industry, we really work with. So let's dive into what these validation tools look like and some of the functionality and features that we here at GoEngineer and SolidWorks can provide for our customers. So in the realm of FDA, we divide our efforts into two product lines, the Simulation Professional and the Simulation Premium product line. I'll go more into detail in the next slides about what those features and functions of those two product lines are. We have a computational fluid dynamics offering. We also can address the mold injection community, the plastics community, if you're using plastics to make your parts. And we actually divide that up into two groups as well. The Plastics Professional tool is geared towards more of the designer, and the Plastics Premium tool is geared towards the mold maker. We also provide sustainability tools. If you want to know your carbon footprint in the market, we can help you evaluate that as well. So the FDA overview looks like this. We provide tools for all the 5 basic failure modes, which include linear static, frequency analysis, that is for mold shape, buckling, thermal for we do both steady state and transient analysis in our thermal tool with the FDA approach. We do optimization. That's more of a shape optimization tool. We talked about a little bit about aesthetics or in a couple slides earlier. If you really want to design towards shape optimization, that's a great tool to test a bunch of what-if scenarios, converging on goals like safety factors or being able to stand a certain amount of load, if you will. We provide tools for motion analysis for contact forces, both kinematic and event-based motion. We provide tools for fatigue analysis. If you want to know what cyclic loading is going to do and how that's going to adversely, or the potential failures that could be seen from that aspect, we provide a fatigue analysis tool. We also provide a pressure vessel testing component and drop test for impact loading. The Simulation Premium tool gets into more of the advanced consideration on the FDA side. If you want to go past the point of yield if you're using plastics, rubbers, even if you're using, sometimes typical materials, evaluating linear static is actually not the right approach. If you really want to consider catastrophic failure, you might want to consider what happens past the point of yield. Nonlinear is how we address that. And then the time history, harmonic, and random vibration and response spectra is what we call our dynamics approach, but it's broken out into specifics here. And we also have a tool for composites. This slide overview is a real review of our computational fluid dynamics approach. In our flow simulation, we title it flow simulation. We can do internal and external flows. We can do laminar and turbulent flows. We do heat transfer on transient and steady state analysis. We can do rotating components. We do compressible fluids. We do non-Newtonian fluids. And we can do time-dependent studies as well. Now, these other two modules are actually a recent product offering on the computational fluid dynamics side. The electronics cooling module is really to optimize the thermal performance in your electronic components. Now, you can use the computational fluid dynamics tool to examine electronic enclosures or electronic components on a system level. But when you want to get really granular and explore the heat transfer effects on a component level, the electronics cooling tool really gives you some enhanced capabilities to address that. Dual heating, if you're using heat transfer on heat pipes, we have a tool for that. We have a tool for microchips out there for 2-resistor components. We have a great library for the PCB users out there, for PCB developers out there. And we have an extended engineering database that allows you to explore more of the components, a library with vast components on the electrical side, heat sinks, resistors, anything you can name on the library side in relationship to PCB creation. That engineering database is really granular on that. The HVAC, or what I like to call advanced radiation module, is where we visit the study of thermal behavior of lighting systems with an advanced radiation module. And we also have a module for comfort parameters for HVAC folks out there. So the computational fluid dynamics module has really gotten beyond the exploration of just, considering flow and wind tunnels. Now we're actually going in depth into some emerging markets like electronics, which has become a huge component in our industry now, especially relates to medical devices. Many medical devices now come with their own control boxes, so you may want to examine on a component level and get more detailed information, and it help you refine or go back to that lean design engineering aspect. For those folks out there who are designing with plastics, like I said, a new product offering that SolidWorks has come out with this year really delves into not only plastics designing but mold making. So we can examine the fill, pack, and cool process all the way up to all the way up to weld lines and gate locations. We actually now in 2014 have a product that goes beyond these two modules for consideration of warpage as well. So plastics professional is really geared towards the designer. If you're the designer, meaning you're the one designing the part, you're not necessarily creating the mold, but you will, some of these things like short shots and looking at the filling process, is my mold, is this product I'm designing even moldable, is some of the questions that the designer needs to know up front before they toss it over the fence to the mold maker. The plastics premium tool is really geared towards the mold maker. He or she is considering what sink marks or shrinkage is going to do to the mold prior to making the mold, because we all know retooling costs can be really costly. So if you can minimize those iterations of redesigning or retooling up front, you know, that's going to save you some real strong projections for overhead and production costs out the gate, because molds can run anywhere from $5,000 to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you're able to siphon those iterations down to one or two based on utilizing these lean design engineering tools, you're really going to see the return on your investment pretty quickly. Simulation has become an emerging concern in not only the medical device industry, but really best-in-class organizations overall. And SolidWorks thought, well, the way to get the community of product development to really own the thought process behind integrating tools for validation or verification up front is we've got to make introductory products as well. So they came up with a new product in 2014. Simulation Standard really addresses the introduction community. It's a low price point product offering that addresses two failure modes, linear static and fatigue, really answering the question to the designer, you know, how long will it last and will it break? And it's a new product on the market. It's emerging in California and the West right now. We're looking forward to be a product offering across the country pretty soon. But if you're interested in, you know, adopting an introduction product, you know, maybe you're not in the realm of thinking to integrate verification or validation tools immediately because you may be a smaller organization. Simulation Standard allows you to get into verification and validation at a very low price point, and really a simplistic way to validate a proof of concept the models you're already using in SolidWorks. Advanced plastics, like I said, mentioned on the plastic side, it goes into some really high-level tools for warpage, and it gets down to the nitty-gritty on the manufacturing side for plastics. Now, this is I wanted to give you guys a couple of reviews of some medical device companies that SolidWorks has worked with. And what's great about this slide here, Drager Medical, they're using simulation to really approach that lean design engineering concept. But here they say it's using SolidWorks simulation saves us time and money. And when we're talking about, you know, less money to use in an R&D situation for medical device, time and money directly relates to, you know, time to market, how quickly you're going to get products out the door, how many new products you can create every year, how quickly you can refine an existing product line to create a better quality product for your customer base. Plastics Engineering Laboratories, say similar. They use SolidWorks analysis software to refine their existing design with finite element analysis. This is a company, you know, that's doing design engineering every day, and by using simulation, they were able to reduce their product development cycle, cutting it down from 10 to 8 months. Really reduced their time to market by 75%. That's a huge, you know, 10 to 8 months, maybe you can look at that and say, well, that's not a huge time factor to me. But those 2 months created a time to market window of a 75% improvement. Now, for them, that was huge. And adopting analysis tools as proof of concept before they prototyped is how they were able to get there. This is just a representation of some of the companies I personally work with in the medical device industry that I've helped use and adopt simulation. They've been able to see huge strides not only in time to market, but improvement in quality of the product, the way they approach design, you know, what's going on with the way their design engineering team really interfaces with quality control and quality assurance folks. So this just gives you guys a representation of, you know, some of the companies I and GoEngineer have worked with closely. You know, this list is very small, but I just wanted to give you guys a close representation of folks that I've touched. So to summarize our meeting today, I just want to go over the benefits of simulation and really understanding, you know, converging the Affordable Care Act, lean design engineering, what the FDA is doing, and how does that really matriculate down to what you can do and changes you can make in your design team as it stands today. So our mantra here at GoEngineer and SolidWorks echoes this mantra. We want to help the community adopt robust tools that can simplify your design process, right? So adopting simulation can simplify your assembly analysis because SolidWorks is something you're already using to create assemblies. It can give you the ability to create a lot of what-if scenarios based on material properties. We have a huge material property library in the simulation module that can help you explore opportunities, you know, switching from this material to the next. We have a full range of analysis capabilities, like I told you in the previous slide, everything from FDA with linear statics and frequency buckling, heat thermal management with the FDA approach, as well as thermal management with the CFD approach. We also offer a product line right now that can address the plastics community. So we're really expanding our capabilities so that we can address all of the concerns for our customers in the medical device industry. You know, there are multiple ways in SolidWorks simulation to consider boundary conditions. I laugh amongst my engineering friends, and I say that the two largest concerns when you're approaching design analysis or design refinement, as I like to call it, is boundary conditions and mesh control. And SolidWorks has really adopted a lot of ways for engineers to simply consider, you know, boundary conditions, control your meshes, which can really converge on quality products quickly. So to wrap things up here, you know, we talked about the Affordable Care Act and the tax increase. It's really going to force the medical device industry to consider lean design engineering tools, and it's going to force us to consider to integrate validation or verification or proof of concept, whatever you want to call it, you know, to cut down on our production schedules, our manufacturing costs, reducing those prototype iterations so that we can really do more with less. We have less money in the system, and that's just the truth. That's what we're dealing with. So we have to really deal with what the cards that we've been dealt. You know, we're not lobbyists by any means. We're design engineers. So we're going to have to figure out how to use, you know, the tools and the solutions that are available to us to help us mitigate some of these effects that we can't control. So in addition to those effects and takeaways, benefits and takeaways, you know, our simulation tool in SolidWorks is fully integrated with SolidWorks. So it's not a complex interface that you got to learn. You're not exporting from one product to another and having a huge learning curve to learn, you know, more about another design tool or more about another analysis tool. And it's really geared, our simulation tools are really geared towards productivity. You know, we're not addressing high-level, what we call expert concerns. You know, you may not get the capability to address a lot of expert concerns, which may represent maybe 2 to 5% of what the industry is doing. But you're really going to get a tool that's going to help your team, your entire team, be more productive. So you may be saying today, well, this is all good information. I want to know more. So I encourage you guys to log on to the new GoEngineer website. The simulation team and myself have been really pouring our resources and our energy into bumping up our knowledge base for simulation. So we have a little guide called Joe, and Joe is our Ask Jeeves, if you will. And if you have questions related to simulation or lean design engineering or even the Affordable Care Act or how industry concerns are going to impact you as a design engineer, you as a engineering manager, or whatever your role is in terms of the product development at your company, GoEngineer has invested a lot of time and energy and our knowledge base in really driving you towards either what we know about the topic or some other teams that we've connected with, other organizations that we've connected with that may be relevant in addressing your concerns. Please feel free to contact me at dbusby@goengineer.com, or I've given my phone number here directly. My direct line is 805-660-0222. Or at GoEngineer.com, we have a full calendar of our simulation events. For those of you here in the local Los Angeles area, if you're interested in plastics, we have a plastics lunch and learn coming up on this Friday in our Woodland Hills office. Feel free to contact or email me. It is a free event where we're going to be going over some of the tools and features and capabilities in our plastics product offering. Giving you guys an understanding of how to use the tool. It's a hands-on experience where we're providing lunch. There's no free food is good for everybody. And we're doing these lunch and learns I want to mention not only in relationship to plastics, but we've got lunch and learns for computational fluid dynamics. We've got lunch and learns for nonlinear and other advanced dynamic capabilities you may be concerned about. So GoEngineer is really investing a lot of time and energy and our resources into events that are related to directly what you're concerned about. So now I'm going to open it up for questions. I really appreciate you guys for logging on today. If you have questions, please feel free to type them into the question box, or there's quite a few people on the line, so I don't think that unmuting everybody will really be the way to go. But if you have questions, please feel free to type them in the question box, and I'll do my best to answer all of them coming in. If I'm unable to answer your question, please know that I will follow up in an email, and or one of my team members will contact you directly so that we can address your question. Okay, I'm getting questions as it relates to if you have SolidWorks. So there are a couple of different ways to, if you have SolidWorks, whatever flavor it is, there's a couple of different ways to get into adopting some of this technology that I talked about on the line. You can upgrade to include some of this functionality, upgrade your SolidWorks, your CAD system, or you can also ask your account managers or myself or anybody on my team. We can help you understand how to purchase standalone products that will work with any flavor of SolidWorks. That includes everything from the FDA side to the CFD side and the plastics as well. I got some questions coming in here about the CFD. We do handle Newtonium and non-Newtonium fluids in our computational fluid dynamics tool. And if you'd like to know more in detail about how that explicitly applies to your product line, my team and I do welcome requests for on-site demonstrations and or meetings with your engineering team. So feel free to reach out to us if you have that need or concern. Okay, the questions are coming in here quicker than I can respond. So I'm going to, since we're converging on the hour here, I'm going to take all of these questions coming into the question box, and I'm going to make sure that I individually, or one of my team members, individually addresses these concerns. Next week, we will be diving into the product itself. My colleague, Corey Bauer, will be doing a demonstration, a live online demonstration of the plastics tool. We will be following up later this month with a live online demonstration of some of the other products in FDA and CFD. So if you like this content, please keep up with us because we are doing weekly webinars. SolidWorks itself is also doing weekly webinars as it relates to live demonstrations of these products. So if you're interested in that, I can give you a calendar of those events as well. I appreciate the time of everybody on the line. Again, we at GoEngineer are really invested in how industry concerns and or challenges might be affecting our customer base. So if you have a topic that you'd like us to discuss in these webinars, feel free to contact me as well. I'm going to roll back up and put my contact information, name, and number for everybody to review. Thank you guys for attending, and I hope you have a great Wednesday. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.